You get the atmosphere. I mean, I did find it harrowing.
Did you find it harrowing?
I did.
What began as a routine evening at one of the royal family's most famous estates allegedly evolved into a controversy that would trigger questions reaching the highest levels of the monarchy. According to accounts discussed by royal commentators, concerns first emerged after unusual activity was reportedly observed at Balmoral, the historic Scottish residence long associated with royal tradition, privacy, and family gatherings. On the surface, nothing appeared particularly remarkable. Guests arrived, staff carried out their duties, conversations filled the halls, yet for at least one longtime member of the estate staff, something felt different. The people attending reportedly did not resemble the guests typically associated with private royal events. New faces appeared. Private meetings allegedly took place behind closed doors. Discussions seemed unusually focused on business rather than family matters. And as the evening progressed, a growing sense of unease reportedly began spreading among those responsible for managing the estate. At first, those concerns remained private. After all, Balmoral has always been a place where discretion is valued above almost everything else. But according to some accounts, one individual eventually reached a conclusion that would change everything. If the activity taking place inside the estate was truly ordinary, why did so many people seem determined to avoid questions? That concern reportedly led to a confidential message being sent to Prince Edward. What happened next would allegedly trigger a chain of events that few people inside royal circles saw coming. Because once Prince Edward began asking questions, the story reportedly became much larger than a single evening at Balmoral. And according to those who follow the controversy closely, the first warning sign had appeared long before anyone realized how serious the situation might become. Several weeks earlier, staff members working at the estate reportedly began noticing subtle but unusual changes. Certain areas of the property were being prepared for visitors, whose identities were not always clearly explained. Additional services were occasionally requested at short notice. Security arrangements reportedly changed without much advance warning. None of these developments were necessarily alarming on their own, but together they created a growing sense that something unusual was taking place. Most employees continued their duties without comment. Others quietly exchanged concerns. According to royal commentators, the atmosphere became particularly noticeable whenever specific visitors arrived. Conversations would suddenly stop. Instructions would become more urgent. Staff members reportedly found themselves handling situations that seemed very different from the traditional family gatherings normally associated with Balmoral. One longtime employee allegedly became increasingly uncomfortable. Having spent years serving the royal household, the staff member reportedly understood the difference between routine royal events and something that felt out of place. The problem was not what could be seen. The problem was what could not be explained. Why were certain guests receiving unusual levels of attention? Why were discussions allegedly taking place behind closed doors? And why did explanations seem to change depending on who was asking the questions? For weeks, those concerns reportedly remained unanswered. Then came the evening that changed everything. According to accounts later discussed by royal observers, a gathering at Balmoral attracted a group of visitors whose presence immediately stood out. Expensive vehicles reportedly arrived throughout the evening. Private conversations continued for hours. Staff members allegedly noticed an atmosphere that felt very different from a normal family occasion. What began as curiosity quickly became concern. The longtime employee, who had already been questioning previous events, reportedly decided that remaining silent was no longer an option. That decision would prove crucial, because rather than discussing the matter publicly, the employee allegedly chose a different path. A discreet communication was reportedly sent directly to Prince Edward. The message itself was simple. Something unusual was happening at Balmoral, and someone needed to take a closer look. At first, few people could have predicted where that message would lead. But according to several accounts, Prince Edward took the concerns seriously almost immediately. What he would reportedly discover over the following days would transform a quiet internal concern into one of the most talked about royal controversies among palace watchers. And as questions surrounding the events at Balmoral continued growing, one thing became increasingly clear. The gathering itself may have been only the beginning of a much larger story. Prince Edward reportedly did not dismiss the message as gossip, exaggeration, or workplace speculation. According to royal commentators, that decision would become one of the most important turning points in the entire story. The reason was simple. The warning had not come from an outsider seeking attention. It allegedly came from someone who had spent years working within the royal environment, someone familiar with Balmoral's traditions, routines, and expectations. If a trusted staff member believed something unusual was taking place, Prince Edward reportedly felt it deserved closer examination. At first, the concern appeared limited. A gathering, several unfamiliar guests, questions about the purpose of the event. Nothing more. But as additional information reportedly began reaching Edward's office, a different picture started emerging. The event in question may not have been an isolated occurrence. According to several accounts, similar gatherings had allegedly taken place before. That revelation immediately changed the situation. One unusual event might be explained away as a misunderstanding. Two events raise questions. A pattern, however, demands answers. And it was the possibility of a pattern that reportedly captured Prince Edward's attention. Observers claim Edward quietly began collecting information rather than making accusations. He wanted facts, not rumors. Timelines, not speculation. What exactly had happened? Who attended these gatherings? And perhaps most importantly, who authorized them? Those questions reportedly became the focus of an informal review. As information continued arriving, certain details stood out. Several guests allegedly had little obvious connection to traditional royal activities. Others were reportedly associated with business interests rather than family relationships. Conversations that staff members expected to revolve around personal matters allegedly appeared centered on opportunities, partnerships, and private discussions taking place away from public view. Again, none of this proved wrongdoing, but it did raise an obvious question. Why would events described as private family occasions reportedly attract such unusual interest from individuals outside the royal circle? That question lingered, and according to commentators following the story, it became increasingly difficult to ignore. Meanwhile, the atmosphere at Balmoral reportedly continued changing. Staff members allegedly noticed growing tension among those organizing the gatherings. Instructions became more specific. Access to certain areas reportedly became more restricted. Questions were allegedly met with shorter answers. For some employees, these developments merely seemed unusual. For others, they reinforced existing concerns. The situation reached another level when reports allegedly suggested that certain documents connected to estate activities might require closer examination. This was where the story reportedly shifted from curiosity to investigation. Prince Edward, according to several accounts, understood that assumptions alone were not enough. If concerns existed, they needed to be supported by evidence. That meant looking beyond conversations and focusing on records, guest information, scheduling details, internal approvals, financial documentation. The goal was not to prove a theory. The goal was to understand what was actually happening. Yet the more information that reportedly surfaced, the harder it became to dismiss the concerns as coincidence. Certain names appeared repeatedly. Certain events appeared connected. Certain explanations failed to fully account for what staff members claimed they had witnessed. Observers later described this stage as the moment the story became significantly more serious. Because once patterns begin appearing across multiple sources, uncertainty starts giving way to suspicion. And suspicion was growing. According to royal commentators, Prince Edward eventually concluded that the matter could no longer be handled through informal questions alone. The concerns had become too significant. Too many inconsistencies remained unresolved. Too many details still lacked satisfactory explanations. At that point, there was reportedly only one person he felt needed to see the information that had been gathered. Prince William, the future king, had a direct interest in protecting the integrity and reputation of the monarchy. If the concerns surrounding Balmoral were legitimate, Edward reportedly believed William needed to understand the situation immediately. What happened next would allegedly transform a quiet review into a much broader investigation. Because when Prince William examined the information for himself, he reportedly reached a troubling conclusion. The questions surrounding Balmoral were no longer about a single event. They might be connected to something much larger, and the evidence reportedly pointing in that direction was becoming harder to ignore with every passing day. Prince William reportedly did not need long to understand why Prince Edward was concerned. According to royal commentators, the moment William began reviewing the information gathered from Balmoral, he realized the issue was no longer about a single gathering or a handful of unusual guests. It was about a pattern, and patterns can be far more dangerous than isolated incidents. The future king reportedly spent hours examining timelines, reviewing reports, and comparing accounts provided by various individuals connected to the estate. At first, he approached the matter cautiously. Like Edward, he reportedly wanted evidence rather than assumptions. Yet as more information emerged, the same questions continued appearing. Why had similar events allegedly occurred multiple times? Why were some gatherings described as private family occasions while reportedly involving guests with little connection to the royal household? And why did certain individuals seem determined to prevent closer scrutiny? The deeper William looked, the more troubling the situation reportedly became. According to several accounts, staff members who initially remained silent gradually became more willing to share their concerns. Some allegedly described feeling uncomfortable with arrangements they were asked to support. Others reportedly questioned why normal procedures appear to be changing whenever specific events took place. None of the testimonies alone proved anything. But together, they painted a picture that was becoming increasingly difficult to dismiss. Observers later claimed that one particular detail captured William's attention. Several staff members reportedly described the same atmosphere. Pressure, not direct threats, not open conflict, but pressure. Pressure to avoid questions. Pressure to follow instructions without discussion. Pressure to treat unusual situations as if they were completely normal. For William, that reportedly raised a new concern. If everything taking place was legitimate, why would anyone feel pressure to remain silent? That question lingered over every conversation. Meanwhile, Prince Edward allegedly expanded the review. What initially focused on individual events now reportedly broadened into a larger examination of estate activity over previous months. Investigators allegedly compared schedules, reviewed records, and attempted to determine whether the concerns represented isolated incidents or part of a wider pattern. The answer, according to commentators, may have surprised even them. More events reportedly surfaced. Not dozens, not hundreds, but enough to suggest that what happened recently may not have been unique. That discovery changed everything. Because once multiple events enter the picture, explanations become much harder to maintain. Coincidences become patterns. Patterns become investigations. And investigations eventually lead to accountability. As the review continued, another development reportedly emerged. Financial questions. According to some accounts, investigators began examining whether certain costs associated with the gatherings had been properly documented and authorized. Again, the purpose was not to accuse anyone of wrongdoing. The purpose was to establish facts. Yet the more documentation reportedly reviewed, the more questions seemed to appear. Certain expenditures allegedly required clarification. Certain approvals reportedly attracted attention. Certain decisions seemed increasingly difficult to explain through routine procedures alone. Observers claim this was the moment the investigation moved into an entirely new phase. No longer was the focus limited to who attended events. The focus was shifting toward who benefited from them. That distinction was critical, because understanding who attends a gathering explains what happened. Understanding who benefits may explain why it happened. And according to royal commentators, that question led investigators toward a potentially explosive discovery. A paper trail, not definitive proof, not a confession, but a collection of records that allegedly connected several previously unrelated pieces of information. For the first time, William and Edward reportedly believed they might be approaching the center of the controversy. The picture was still incomplete, questions still outnumbered answers. Yet one thing appeared increasingly clear. The situation surrounding Balmoral was far more complex than anyone initially believed. And according to those following the story closely, the documents investigators reportedly uncovered next would transform suspicion into something much more difficult to dismiss. Because hidden within that growing paper trail may have been information capable of explaining how the entire controversy allegedly began in the first place. The reported paper trail did not provide immediate answers. Instead, according to royal commentators, it raised an entirely new set of questions. For Prince Edward and Prince William, That may have been the most troubling development of all. Documents are supposed to create clarity. They establish timelines. They explain decisions. They reveal who approved what and when. Yet as investigators allegedly reviewed the growing collection of records connected to the Balmoral events, the opposite reportedly occurred. The deeper they looked, the more complicated the picture became. According to several accounts, investigators began organizing the information chronologically, attempting to reconstruct how the events had developed over time. What initially appeared to be isolated gatherings now seemed increasingly connected through a series of recurring names, approvals, and administrative decisions. Again, none of this automatically suggested wrongdoing, but it did suggest coordination, and coordination changes the nature of any investigation. Observers later claimed that one particular discovery attracted immediate attention. Several events that were reportedly described internally as private family occasions appeared to share remarkably similar characteristics. Similar preparations, similar guest arrangements, similar logistical requirements. The repetition was difficult to ignore. Why would gatherings supposedly unrelated to one another follow such a consistent pattern? That question reportedly became one of the central concerns facing investigators. Meanwhile, staff testimony allegedly continued arriving. Individuals who had previously remained cautious reportedly became more willing to speak once they realized their concerns were being taken seriously. Their accounts varied in detail, but many reportedly described the same general experience: confusion, uncertainty, and an increasing sense that certain activities were being presented differently depending on who was asking questions. For Prince William, according to commentators, that represented a significant warning sign. Transparency tends to produce consistency. Confusion often produces contradictions, and contradictions were reportedly becoming more frequent. As the investigation expanded, attention allegedly shifted toward approvals and authorizations connected to the events. Who signed off on arrangements? Who granted access? Who approved expenditures? These questions may sound routine, but in large institutions they often reveal how decisions are actually made. And according to some accounts, the answers investigators discovered were not what they expected. Several approvals reportedly led reviewers toward a much smaller group of individuals than originally anticipated. That realization dramatically narrowed the focus of the inquiry. Observers claim this was the moment investigators stopped asking whether the events were connected and started asking who may have been responsible for creating those connections. The distinction was crucial because identifying a pattern explains what happened. Identifying responsibility explains why it happened. At the same time, reports suggest growing concern began spreading among those who understood the review was becoming more serious. Rumors circulated, questions increased, speculation intensified, and according to royal commentators, some individuals allegedly became increasingly anxious about what investigators might eventually uncover. That anxiety reportedly created another problem: the possibility that important information could disappear. Whether through routine administrative actions, innocent mistakes, or deliberate efforts to limit scrutiny, investigators allegedly recognized that delays carried risks. If records were lost or altered, determining the truth could become significantly more difficult. As a result, Prince Edward reportedly accelerated efforts to secure relevant documentation and testimony. Time was becoming a factor, and time rarely favors uncertainty. The more information investigators preserved, the clearer the emerging picture allegedly became. Patterns were no longer isolated observations. They were appearing across multiple areas of the review: records, schedules, testimony, approvals. Each new layer reportedly strengthened the belief that the controversy surrounding Balmoral could not simply be dismissed as misunderstanding or coincidence. Yet despite all these developments, one crucial step still remained. The findings had reached a level that allegedly required attention from the highest level of the royal household. According to those familiar with the story, Prince Edward and Prince William had reached a conclusion. The information gathered so far was too significant to remain confined within a limited review. Someone else needed to see the evidence. Someone with the authority to make decisions that could affect the entire monarchy. And according to royal commentators, the moment that information finally reached King Charles would reportedly change the course of the entire controversy. Because once the king became aware of the questions surrounding Balmoral, the investigation was no longer just about finding answers. It was about deciding what would happen next. The reported decision to bring the findings directly to King Charles marked the most significant turning point in the entire controversy. Up until that moment, according to royal commentators, the Balmoral questions had largely remained an internal matter. Prince Edward had reportedly gathered information. Prince William had reportedly reviewed evidence. Staff members had allegedly provided testimony. Investigators had followed records, timelines, and approvals. But once the matter allegedly reached the king's attention, everything changed. Because the discussion was no longer focused on whether concerns existed. The discussion now centered on how serious those concerns had become. According to several accounts, King Charles was presented with a summary of the information gathered throughout the review. The findings reportedly included staff concerns, records connected to multiple gatherings, questions surrounding approvals, and the broader pattern investigators believe they had identified. Observers claim the king was less interested in rumors than in facts. What could be verified? What could be documented? What conclusions were supported by evidence rather than speculation? Those questions reportedly guided the next stage of the process, and according to royal commentators, that approach ultimately proved decisive. Because while opinions surrounding the controversy varied widely, the investigation had allegedly accumulated enough information to demonstrate one important reality. The concerns could not simply be ignored. Too many questions had been raised. Too many individuals had reportedly come forward. Too many patterns had emerged across multiple areas of the review. At some point, a decision had to be made. Observers claim that this realization created a difficult moment for everyone involved. The monarchy has always depended upon a careful balance between tradition, loyalty, and accountability. Yet situations occasionally arise where those principles come into conflict with one another. When that happens, choices become far more complicated. Protecting relationships is important. Protecting public confidence is equally important. According to commentators, the challenge facing King Charles was determining how to address concerns without creating even greater instability. And that challenge remains at the center of many discussions surrounding the story today. Some royal watchers believe the reported investigation demonstrates the monarchy's ability to examine difficult questions when necessary. Others argue that many details remain unclear and that caution should always be exercised before drawing firm conclusions. Both perspectives continue fueling debate. Yet regardless of where people stand, one aspect of the story appears to resonate strongly with audiences: the idea that accountability should apply equally to everyone. Whether someone is a staff member, an advisor, a relative, or a senior figure connected to the institution, many observers believe the same standard should apply. Perhaps that is why the controversy generated such intense interest. It was never solely about Balmoral. It was never solely about specific gatherings. And it was never solely about individual personalities. Instead, it became a larger conversation about responsibility, influence, transparency, and trust. Those themes extend far beyond any single royal story. As discussions continue, many questions remain unresolved. Some accounts differ. Some claims remain disputed. Some details may never be fully clarified publicly. Yet the controversy has already achieved something significant. It has encouraged people to ask questions, to examine information carefully, to consider how institutions maintain public confidence in an era where scrutiny is greater than ever before. And perhaps that is why stories like this continue capturing attention long after the initial headlines fade. Because at their core, they are not merely about individuals. They are about the principles people expect from those who hold positions of influence. For Prince Edward, the story became associated with duty and oversight. For Prince William, it became linked to responsibility and the future of the monarchy. For King Charles, it reportedly became another reminder that leadership often requires confronting difficult questions rather than avoiding them. And for royal observers, the debate remains far from over. So what do you think? Did the reported investigation demonstrate the importance of accountability within the royal family? Or do you believe many of the claims surrounding the Balmoral controversy have been amplified by speculation and public curiosity? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this discussion, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications for more royal stories, royal analysis, and the latest developments involving King Charles III, Prince William, Prince Edward, Queen Camilla, Balmoral, and the future of the British monarchy.